What's up? Hey y'all. Hope everyone's doing well. It's Friday night, the 24th. And let me see if I can pull this up on my computer. We're going to try to sculpt a dragon. And you never know how it's going to go. So that's why I say try. Because we've had our fair share of stuff that just didn't work. And that happens. You might be surprised how much that happens. That's what's good about sketching stuff out, is because you never know what nice little thing, some accidental, some little fun thing that you might not have expected. So I can't really decide if I'm going to use Aves or Sculpting. So I was trying to get the armature going before I started. But this is just kind of what it is. Drilled a hole and shoved these. This is not almaloy. These two wires right here are super strong. I don't know where I got them. But so I like that. It doesn't move at all. And I don't like stuff to move around. Hey, Brian. And I put these on. And I was thinking they were going to be front limbs. Kind of like if a Komodo dragon or some kind of monitor stood straight up. And but then once I got them on, they kind of started turning into wings. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of Aves Plumber's putty. Get this from the hardware store. It's about well, it's gone up. It's about $6 or $7 a tube now. If I can get it out of here. There it is. And it's a 2-part mixture. I took my X-Acto into the other room. So I'm just slicing it. But you can see it's a 2-part epoxy putty. And this cures within about 3 or 4 minutes. And that's why I will say sometimes not to over mix it. Because once it turns white, there's you can keep mixing while it's trying to set. So I've got to grab some aluminum foil. But this Aves Plumber's putty is real useful for certain things, namely the armature. Hey Martin, hey Jason. Yeah, it's for certain things, it's great. And so the first thing I'm going to do is just a little more super glue so this Bondo here sticks on. Going to stick it right there, and that's going to give this lump of aluminum foil I'm about to add something to kind of cling to, where it's not. Hey John, nice eagle, man. That big ass eagle is badass. Some of you might have seen John's big bronze eagle in the forum. He uses the same foundry we use, Deep in the Heart. So, first things first, give them a little bit of belly. because, you know, it sounds funny, but a huge influence is Peach Dragon, Elliot. And so a lot of our dragons will have bellies and underbites. And so the other thing I wanted to do is, now I'm going to add some to the back. So I'm going to get some more floral wire. And I don't even think that's enough belly. He's going to get thicker now that I've walked away and thought about it in my mind. But that's just a starting place. So now I'm going to do some more. And this is a very thick gauge floral wire. You can see the thread and the woven stuff. That's really the magic of it. So that when it's all on here in a clump and you super glue it, it creates that real strong binding effect that we like. I'm keeping this kind of tight. It could be looser, but I don't want to dictate how wide he's going to be, because it might not be that big of a dragon. Another place we like to do the Bondo is usually on the head, just to give you kind of a little starting point to work from. So, just mixing this up. And these might be the horns, but they might not be the horns. I'm not really worried about it. They're there if they're useful. But if I want the horns to be somewhere else, I will definitely cut that off. And I just want to, this is going to beef up this part of the neck, but it's also going to add to the curve. And the curves can be part of the fun with dragons. So that little strip of Bondo I put on is just going to help that not to wiggle around. It is, John. It's Bondo. I get it at Lowe's. Odie Fix-It Stick, all-purpose bonding putty. Like I said, it used to be about $5 a roll, and shit, when I go in there, I get the whole thing because it doesn't really go bad, and we just go through a lot of it. Okay, so I'm still going back and forth between Sculpting and Aves. And I just think that Aves is going to be a little quicker because the Sculpey I've got is a little firm, and that would entail a lot of squishing it up. So Aves just works a little faster. So this is Aves Apoxie. There's a two-part, part A and part B. I use a little digital scale just to get the parts even. And we love Aves. It's great for the taking originals to the shows. And I would hear people talk about it, you know, like Alterton used it way back when. And I just didn't realize what a higher grade material it was compared to just the regular Bondo. But it's way better. So we love it, and we order it right off of Amazon. So Brandon told me not to do any armature, so sorry about that. The time kind of got away from me. If we were going to do some wings, we would use this craft mesh. Craft mesh and Aves goes great together because you can get it real thin. So if there was going to be a wing, probably be something like that. Now, you don't have to worry about over mixing Aves like you do the Bondo, because it's not going to really cure for, 2 or 3 hours. It's just a much slower process. And the Aves doesn't heat up like Bondo does. So mix. And so I have a little tub of water right here next to me. And that makes the difference between that here, that sticky, that last little touch, And if you have water on your finger, it doesn't make that sound as much. So that's what the water's good for. And it's the same with the tool. Especially when you first mix the Aves. It's very, has that sticky, tacky. So these may well be the horns. I always like dragons to have kind of this secondary gullet behind the head. Or maybe not secondary gullet, maybe just the first gullet. Oh, I'm not looking at the questions. Dang it. But I hope everybody's doing well. Yeah. And so I'll start giving him some jaw so he's a little more menacing. I always think I'm going to make scary dragon, and then it ends up being cute dragon. So I'll just warn you now. And now I'll try to do the first little line, the first hint of the mouth, which I'll do over and over, I'm sure, unless I get extremely lucky. Cute does sell. I'll be honest, Brandon hates cute. I'm not against it. And so a good thing to do with, let me tell you, with reptiles is to have one side of the jaw, don't make it symmetrical, have one side of the bottom of the jaw kind of, because they're always doing something with their jaw. And I'm going to leave the nose kind of undecided right now. I wonder if I can zoom in. I don't feel like it's very close. Okay, that's a little better. There we go. So now I'm just going to keep making his head wider and wider, because why not? That's the kind of the vision I had for it. Something like a Komodo dragon type dragon, kind of beefy. You might be able to hear one of my dogs snoring. That's not me making that sound, that's Little Red. So now I'm going to try to see if I can give his eyes some expression. Oh, that tooth is way too big. That's not good. One thing that's good to do is, you know, I love to look at Komodo dragons, but I also like bearded dragons. And bearded dragons have a lot of spikes. They've got spikes going everywhere. And so if you're ever wondering where some good spikes could be, you can always Google image. Now he kind of looks friendly surprised. And of course I want him to be devil dragon. Okay, so now he looks a little angrier. So now we're just going to do some kind of fun action-y spikes and get some kind of motion going. And see, that's what's kind of good about aluminum foil, is you can always press it in a little bit more. Now, I usually like to do a center line down the... This doesn't always exist in a lot of reptiles. The scales will just go all the way across, but sometimes it does. I'm not loving this horn all of a sudden. Now I'm thinking about this back, and I just want to create some different planes. So there seems like there's some detail back here. Hey, Spencer. What did Spencer say? Oh, I thought ZBrush was like $7.50. Yeah, that's another thread. I don't know how I knew what ZBrush cost. I guess I've seen people say that, but that is what I thought about. Hey, Dina. And I should be looking at the comments more. John, this will probably just be Aves. This isn't really anything but just a sketch for tonight. This isn't really going to be anything just kind of Friday night. And I'm not really worried about that these are going to be the fins or scales or whatever. This is just kind of placeholders for what might be there. And at some point, hopefully I'll like it. Okay, so see how straight on it is? That's not good. See, when it gets, and I guess that might happen, but aesthetically it's not good for me. So I'm looking for the big pliers, and we're gonna move him around a little bit and see what happens. So I don't really care which way he moves, as long as it's not that straight. And so even that little bit is better than it was. But I'm still not crazy about it. So since that's moving around so much, I'm gonna bind it with some floral wire so it'll stop coming undone on me. Okay, so now that that's tight, I'm going to put that on there. And it's still very hold up. It's not curved enough. So I'm just moving it around a little in the hopes that I'll see something I like. And now I'm just going to pull out the front of the face a little bit. Well, I'm going to put some different gloves on. I'm ripping up these gloves because I'm trying to work fast. But, this is going to be very sea serpent. It sounds weird, but one of the things that influences our dragons is whatever a Japanese hauler pulled up in the 70s, and it was basically the carcass of a basking shark. But when they pulled it up on this trawler thing or whatever it was, the shipping vessel, it looked very much like a plesiosaur hanging there. And we just loved that. And I remember daydreaming, wow, is there fucking plesiosaurs out there? So I'm looking at it through the camera, and he's looking a little friendly. A little too friendly. But I'm having a little bit of coffee, and I'm putting on new gloves. We appreciate everybody posting in the forum. And sharing their work. So I'm just going to tuck this eyebrow down a little bit. Hopefully he'll become meaner. I'm going to come back to these cheek spikes, I'll call them. So whatever is happening with this horn, I don't love it. And I want to move it a little bit. Because because it was coming out the side of the head too much. Now this will be a little bit of eye bag underneath his eye, and that'll make him mischievous, hopefully. Kind of wisens him up. So I'm going to try to take control of the back of this mouth a little bit. Hey Randy, how are you doing? Yeah, that helps to make him even more. Got to kind of connect the head to the body more. So, hey James, it goes through a bunch of stages, you know. About 2.5 hours, it's pretty hard to work. You can press into it with your tools and stuff, but it's getting harder and harder to work. What's good about Aves is that it's easy to add to itself or to carve away from it. And so it's not like you just have 2.5 or 3 hours, you know, to make the sculpture. You have all the time in the world. And you want to let it really set before you start to Dremel it or try to sand it. But after about 7 or 8 hours, you can Dremel. We love to Dremel it, so we'll Dremel the heck out of it. And okay, so this horn is just way too long. Hey Mary, tell her I said hello. So now at least he's not as straight as he was, or she. Because it was just way too symmetrical, and that's not any fun. Yeah, when you first mix it up, it's hard to work with. It really is. It's a little too squishy and stuff, and it's a little sticky. But it goes through all these stages, and you realize they all have a good, there's good things you can do. Like when you first mix it up and it's really soft like this, you can squish it into cracks and stuff, and it has properties that you can just work really fast with it. Hey, Luke. So, a lot of this could be more aluminum foil than it is, but just because I'm trying to work kind of quick, I'm not beefing it up that much. But definitely in a normal setting, we're trying to use as little as we can. The more foil it is, the less weight it's going to have. All those good things. Okay, so I might find like I said, that center line. And it'll kind of help the eye to think there's more of a curve than there is, really. We'll cheat it out a little bit. See, that could definitely be more aluminum. Yeah, because in my mind, this is a big-ass sea serpent, so I am going to mix up a little bit more. And so tomorrow night we're going to have something new's going to happen that we haven't done. I was PM'd by Kevin Gorby, and he has a sculpture group that gets together on Saturday nights, and he said, hey, let's broadcast it. And I said, well, that sounds great. So that's going to happen tomorrow night. Fingers crossed it all works. I've seen the camera switcher they have, and they've done some tests, so I think it's good to go. And that'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And hopefully that'll be fun. You know, it's a bunch of pro sculptors, and I've seen things like this where they just broadcast, you know, a studio or something like that. I've seen some of the face-off guys. Ooh, I could mix that a little bit more. I've seen some of the face-off guys do that. So, and they have a big-ass camera. I saw that. So, him and Pippin Beard are going to broadcast the sculpting party. And, you know, we like all the live broadcasts and going live in people's studios. I just think that's, you know, you didn't have that. Brandon and I, we're old enough to remember, you know, we had 2 books and 2 VCR tapes, and that was it. And now, you know, there's just a endless amount of stuff on YouTube and all that stuff. So that's a little much. I'm going to cut that off. Hey, Julio, what's up, man? ¿Cómo está? So that strip of Bondo is just going to help this thing not move. Just because I wanted him to be a little thicker. And he's still very... I'm just scared to move that wire because the wire's so thick, but he's still very... I don't like it. Okay, so that, yeah, that has a lot more turn than it did have because it was just straight. So I smoshed the horn. That's all right. I didn't love that horn anyway. Hey, Joseph. So I didn't like to hear Joseph PM'd me and said he stopped seeing the notifications from the group. And then somebody else said they stopped seeing the notifications from the group. So I'm not sure what that's about, but I don't like the sound of it. Now we've got a bunch of random scales. And when we start getting them lined up, it's gonna be a lot more pleasing to the eye. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I guess this is more turning into more sea serpent than dragon. I'm just going to fill in this spot where the pliers smoshed down. And that inside curve will just kind of parallel the neck. And there will be a couple of other ones. Like this one. And again, I'm not really concerned about these scales unless I see one I like. I consider these first ones, they're just placeholders. They're just what if. I keep thinking this left side of the jaw could be a little longer. And I happen to know that the mouth on some creatures can come way back here. And so this is where the head will end. You know, I don't have my reference out, but you can't have enough reference. And so when I do a couple of these bottom scales, way over here, it's really going to accentuate the curve. The curve isn't moving. I'm just doing eye stuff. So here we could do some gums or no gums. You know, they talk now about, did T-Rex have lips? And some people say he did, or they did, she, he. That T-Rex very well could have had lips. And some people say they did. So it's not that weird. Now, a lot of dragons will have some maybe some nasal flare. Nostril spikes. What am I trying to say? Oh, that wants to fall. Hold up. And I know I'm not really looking at it from the front very much, but, you know. And so it just occurred to me to give him some chin gristle. And I keep looking at it through the camera. It's always weird. Well, that's very dragony, I think. And so now I'll just add some spikes. And the spikes are another place where you can put that little action line curve show up again. It kind of looks like he's snarling a little bit. Thanks, Jeremiah. Aves. Hey, Lauren, it's Aves Epoxy Sculpt. It's a 2-part mixture. You get a part A and part B and mix it together. And there's a couple of hours of curing time, but then it adds to itself real well. And so for about, I would say about the first hour, we'll wear gloves if we're going to work with it, because you don't really want the stuff curing in your pores. And the way that Aves, it doesn't heat up when you mix it like some Bondo does. And I think that's why people mix it just with their hands without gloves on. That's my own opinion. But it's just, especially if you're going to work with it a lot. Okay, so it just doesn't have another eye at all. So, he's got one horn. And, you know, that happens. Sometimes. I'm trying to make his eye bigger without being friendlier. Oh, he looks crazy as hell. And if you've watched many of our videos, one thing I always talk about is, especially with monsters, and that applies to dragons too, is kind of one pissed off eye and one kind of crazy eye. Because that just kind of gives you a, it's like, now what is this thing? Now he looks, I don't mind if he's a crazy dragon, I just want him to look mean. And I don't want the teeth to look too nice. I want them to look kind of, kind of gnarly. But I do have a lot of just what we call reference boards of all kinds of reptiles and other things. Elephant textures, and you know, a skinned chicken is a really good reference because they have a lot of the little same patterns that reptiles do once they're skinned. And I'll try to make some of these spikes line up. And that'll add to the flow of it all. When these front spikes finally meet up with these back spikes, hopefully. And again, it's not, I don't want them to look too symmetrical. I like kind of a haggard sea serpent that's been through its trials and tribulations. Okay, so if that's the back of its jaw, I'm going to beef up this thing behind the jaw a little bit. Just kind of pull this out and make it a fin. I guess we can come over here and do his other fin. That's kind of fun. He looks crazy. I was thinking about doing his mouth open, but I kind of thought that was just more work, right? And so right in here, like I was saying, is another place where you can accentuate that curve again. It's this little line of scales. Oh my God, I've completely stopped looking at the comments. I'm so sorry, y'all. And if you're just joining us, I've got this little tub of water next to me that I keep dipping the tool into. And this can be like a little coelacanth fin, a little secondary proto fin. Honestly, I've never tried alcohol with epoxy. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I might love it. I think I will give that a try. I've just always used water. But there's a ton of stuff you can do with rubbing alcohol, that's for sure. And we use it with Sculpting. Thanks, James. And just got the crazy eye way over here. Whatever. They're both kind of crazy eyes. I think I'll just beef up the back of this. I appreciate anybody sharing it. If anybody shared it, thank you very much. That helps us get it out past the group. And might give him some little, just make the snout a little more snarly. Is that a word, snarly? And then I could find this middle. Just come down like that, and that'll help me to... Ooh, I keep mushing these spikes down. Thanks, Carl. Yeah, the coelacanth is the thing they thought was extinct, and then they started finding them. So the coelacanth has these little weird fins, so that's what I was kind of... I think it's kind of the ultimate example of stuff we thought was extinct. No, these are just some kind of random spikes. But yeah, so tune back in tomorrow night, and we'll be doing the sculpting, the Saturday night sculpting party. What's it called? And I think that'll be cool. Now the eye is looking a little cartoony to me, so I just want to fuck with it a little bit. I'm not sure what is doing it, but... Here's a little fin. And there's a little fin. And this is where what I would call the rib cage would be, right in here. And with the serpent, we may or may not kind of do it. Some little fun spikes down here. All right, y'all. Check us out tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific time. We're going to try something new, and I think it'll be cool. Thanks for everybody posting in the forum. Check us out on Patreon. We're doing Shelves of Doom over there. We're doing a Frazetta piece over there. And we're trying to make it fun. And we'll see y'all tomorrow. Peace.